I don't want everybody thinking I don't have time. Oh my God, it's another thing. I want you to think that as an insurance professional, how am I going to guide my client? How am I going to be ridiculously amazing? How am I going to be their hard market hero if I personally am unclear on that, what they need for coverage? I think as an agent and an insurance professional, it's our duty and our responsibility to keep educating ourselves on how to explain things to clients. I see so many agents across the country frustrated because clients are trying to make their insurance just about price. Now, we know in a hard market, that is an absolute situation we all have to be cognitive of. But at the same token, if we can't afford our insurance, we can't afford the claim. And I find that agents are frustrated, but not always diving deeper to say, okay, well, how can I sharpen my toolkit to understand how do I explain this coverage? How do I get more yeses? What does that look like? And how can I empower my insurance career to really go around that? And that's what I want to talk about today, because I think we can't just stop and say nobody wants it. Nobody has any money. I see all these limiting beliefs that come out so often. So let's start by talking about some of those limiting beliefs that stop us from getting those yeses that we so desperately want. The first limiting belief is time. We think that our clients just have no time. They don't want to talk about their insurance. They have no time. But I'm going to actually ask you to flip the mirror on this. This is one of those like gaslighting projection things I see we do sometimes. We don't feel like we have the time to stop and educate someone. So we assume that when somebody calls in, they have a stopwatch on us and they're like, you have 3 minutes and 33 seconds to change my vehicle. And that's just simply not the case. But what happens is that we get so caught up into all the other things we're doing that we turn our client into more of a transaction. And I think that that's hurting us in the long run a ton. Another false belief is no one has any money for insurance. The economy is difficult. So I started my insurance career at a bank. And the amazing thing was that I was a teller. And so I did see what people had in their bank accounts before I moved into a different role. And I can tell you that people had the money. We just don't always want to spend it on our insurance. And we also have to identify the person who is truly living paycheck to paycheck, struggling. And I'm not saying that, they don't have some, disposable income. Maybe if something happened, there would be an issue. But that might not be our ideal client. Our ideal client might be somebody that has a few more resources that can definitely afford these coverages. Again, I'm not talking about going extravagant, but I'm talking about some baseline things that are important. The person who's constantly struggling to pay their insurance, sure, they may not have the funds, but they also might not be with our agency for that long either. I think it's a really damaging mental belief when we think so much about other people's money. I don't know what they have in their back pocket, but as an insurance professional, it's my responsibility to educate and encourage them and then let them make the best decision and walk away. Now, I just think that this is something that we get in our head so much. And sometimes we're thinking with our own back pocket of, would I be able to afford this? And the answer is not ours to make. It's the client. We educate the client and let them make the best decision. The next limiting belief I see so often is no one cares about their insurance. Amen. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully we're doing such a good job that insurance is not a pain point or something that they have to use in their life all the time, right? That's how I like to look at it. When I'm thinking about, how we spend our time and how we spend our resources, I want our clients to have an easy situation. However, I also want to intersect in their lives at renewal time, review time, when they come calling me with an endorsement to ensure that they have the right coverage that I know that they need. So they may not care about their insurance, but it's our job to have that conversation, to encourage them more and more to not necessarily care, but understand and make the right choices. Knowledge is power. And if somebody's not educated on a coverage, it's very difficult for them to make those choices that we know that they need. So the first step is we have to almost like detox ourselves. Like I've often envisioned having like an agent detox camp where, they come back 30 days and they have all the limiting beliefs and all the right mindset just in them so they can go in and crush it. Because this does stop us a lot of times. I think the biggest one is the time one. When we feel like we don't have time, we make everybody a transaction. And that is so dangerous. It's dangerous for our business. It's dangerous for the client. It's dangerous from an E&O perspective. We need to treat everybody like a person, not a policy. So then we go into, okay, well, Kelly, great. I believe all these things. Help me. I'm so sick of hearing no. I'm so sick of people declining water, sewer backup, or water seepage, or what are all these other coverages? Okay, let's talk about how we explain these coverages. The first step is, and this is something that I had an epiphany about in 2023. So many agents especially the green ones coming in. And we need to welcome them, right? We need new people in this industry. We have that silver tsunami that's going to be retiring. They've earned it, it's their time. How can we go ahead and make that happen? Well, I personally believe that the first step is educating yourself on the coverages. And as we were building out our new course on how to explain and sell all these coverages, I forgot how many coverages there really were. This was like an eye opening educational experience for me. When we mapped out between personal and commercial and life and health, we have almost 70 coverages that we're going through. Now, I remember a simpler time when I got into insurance. We had carbon paper and one monitor and like three companies, and that was the end of it. And today's world is so much more complex. So it's okay if some of these coverages are a little sticky for you. They're not your mainline liability coverages that you're dealing with day in and day out. However, they are valuable to you in the time of a claim. And that's why it's important that we stop for a second and understand these things. One of the things that I want to go ahead and talk about is the need to spend time educating yourself. Now, you might be listening to this podcast, you might be a leader. Take time and have a coverage of the week, a coverage of the month. Go through it. Even ones I was doing was like, man, I am a rusty. I did not know what incidental farming was. Go figure. We don't have that much farming in Rhode Island, so it just was one that didn't come up that often. I think it's just a huge, huge, huge opportunity for people to have the coverage of the week and what it does. Now, whether you pull it from our list and you send it out to your team, have them watch the videos, however you do it, take a look at this new course. It's so powerful, especially for a new person, but also for a veteran, just to refresh ourselves. Now, when we think about learning about these coverages, you will be more confident if you understand the coverage and you're comfortable with it. And that's why it takes some time. Now, I don't think learning these coverages, by the way, takes hours out of the week. I think if you did one a week, you could spend 15 minutes on it and sharpen your skill set. I don't want everybody thinking I don't have time. Oh my God, it's another thing. I want you to think that as an insurance professional, how am I going to guide my client? How am I going to be ridiculously amazing? How am I going to be their hard market hero if I personally am unclear on what they need for coverage? So we need to make sure that we're doing that. Now, the next thing that we have to do is understand the coverage from what it does, and then be able to translate that by using what we call our NANA principle. How would you explain this to your grandma? We don't use big terms. And in fact, I think sometimes we overcomplicate it because we're so worried, but really we just need to explain it like you were having a cup of coffee with a friend. Say, do you have this coverage? Let me tell you about it. It can be so, so simple if we make it that way. So on our coverage sheets in this course, you're going to see that we have what the coverage is and then how to explain it to a client. What are some things that we can say that are buzzwords, keywords, things that will get people interested? Then we're going to go ahead and go to the next step, which is claims examples. I often forget that the newer generation doesn't have these examples of claims, or some agencies have a claims person, and we don't always do a great job of saying, hey, here's an example of an umbrella claim, or here's an example of why somebody needed $50 a day in rental car reimbursement. Those little things or stories that we use that can add up. And so in our coverage documents, we actually have examples of claims. Now, the final step in how we explain coverage has to be preparing to hear that they don't want it. If I'm doing my renewal review and I was at the grocery store, I don't know as though I was always thinking about a commercial umbrella, or I don't know if I was always thinking about, increasing my water sewer backup. It just was not on my mind. So because we're educating, and for many of us, the challenge is we're educating people maybe for the first time, or the first time since the person got sold, which could be years now. Expect that they're not maybe going to be thinking about it. It wasn't on their radar screen. They were thinking about what's for dinner, and I got to pay my credit card bill, and where are we going for Thanksgiving, or, with St. Patrick's Day, or whatever it is. They weren't thinking about it. So the first thing people are going to say is, oh, thanks, I'll think about it. And because you just educated them, you just brought it onto their radar screen, and they have a big radar screen of their whole lives and their whole businesses. So now it's on their radar screen, and we need to do our job of encouraging. That's the next step. When we encourage and they say, okay, let me think about it, I'd say, hey, I understand it's kind of a complicated coverage, but I think we would both regret if you had a claim and you didn't have it. It's actually only $8 a month. Why don't we add that on? I would feel better knowing that you had this. We don't understand sometimes how much influence we have on people. Our words matter, and our passion matters, and our care for people matters. And I know some of you out there are listening to this right now and thinking, that's pushy, because that's what I hear all the time. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be pushy. And before I even get the words out of my mouth, if someone says I'm not interested or let me think about it, many people want to stop right there. In their heart, That's a win. They said they were going to think about it. They didn't tell me no. But I'm going to be honest with you. How many people go home and think about that coverage? Have you met people today? People today are crazy. They're out of their mind. They're moving at a million miles an hour. And that's why I want to make sure that we stop, collaborate and listen, little MC Hammer right there, and just say we have them on the phone. I don't want to get them off the phone. I know they need this coverage. Why wouldn't I just ask a question? Another example of this is, hey, I understand maybe you weren't thinking about this today. So many of my clients add this on. I'd really encourage you to move forward with it. Encourage. In the blog that this podcast is associated with, we talk a lot about encouraging your client, not being pushy, not being rude, not being a jerk face. Encouragement. Encouragement is simply letting people know that this is something that they should really consider. And when we're passionate, they feel that and they respond differently. Yes, they do. They 100% do. And I love this because when we get that mindset, that limiting belief, we take that pushy word and say, I'm not being pushy, I'm encouraging. What is the difference between pushy and encouraging? If anybody can tell me, please leave a comment wherever you are listening to this podcast. Email me, call me, tell me, troll me on the internet. I get some of those too. But encouragement is just taking that little extra step of care. Encouragement is saying, I know you weren't thinking about this, but it's something you really need. That's where we're at. And when you can get through to your own self that we have all this power and we have the ability to foresee what people need in the event of a claim, we have the ability to not make it about price. I know this may be an unpopular belief, but I think we all made policies about price for so long that now in this hard market, there's a reckoning coming. And we did this. We had a stake in this game. Some people be like, no, we didn't make it about price. If you weren't encouraging your clients because you felt like you were pushy, you made it about price because you felt like they didn't want to spend the money and they had other things to spend their money on and you weren't as important. You are important. So is your policy. So are your recommendations. Now, not everybody will take it, but if half the people do, we're still winning. So don't get yourself caught up into some of these limiting beliefs that get everyone all jammed up. I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, it is critical, absolutely critical that we think through this. And it's absolutely critical that you take your time and breathe and have a little bit of fun with this. Nobody's going to bite your head off by encouraging them, but you do have to know the coverage. You do have to be passionate about the coverage. You do have to learn how to articulate it in a very easy way to explain it. And you do have to remember to do it, which is the other challenge we see. We just forget. We turn the person into a transaction because we were in the middle of doing something and someone called in and our brain wants to go back to the other thing we were doing. But stop. Really understand your client. Take a moment. Take some time. And hey, at the end of the day, the worst thing that happens is you documented your management system, protected the agency, taught the client something new. So maybe next time they go do it, it's an opportunity. And I just can't say enough about when you shift your mindset into thinking about how to explain coverage, not that nobody wants it. Now, I ask, nobody does it. I tell this story a lot. I remember I was working with somebody and we asked them to just keep on the umbrella brand wagon for personal lines. And this woman came back to me a month later. She goes, I just want to let you know, I asked every single person and nobody wanted an umbrella. I told you, Kelly, nobody has any money. Nobody values it. That's how it goes. And I just looked at this woman. I said, I have no idea why you would say that to me and in front of the agency owners, that you asked 100 people and you couldn't get a single one of them to quote their umbrella. That sounds like a you problem, not a coverage problem. And she just looked at me and she goes, I asked. I go, there is how you ask and there's asking. And there's two completely separate concepts. For example, if I said, would you like to spend another couple $100 to have an extra $1 million liability onto your policy that you might not ever use? How many people are going to say yes to that? None. But if I said, hey, lawsuits are on the rise, you work so hard. I really believe that we might want to add an additional liability coverage on top of your policy. So in the event of a very catastrophic claim or accident, you have another $1 million there that you could tap into so your wages aren't garnished. There's no lawsuits that aren't covered. Why don't we do that? It's about $25 a month. That is how you ask people and get a response. So how we ask is critical. Our passion is critical. What we say is critical, but it all starts with your confidence. And that's why I hope that you check out our How to Explain and Sell Coverage 70 coverage documents. Do you know how long it would take your agency to build these out? I know because we built them and we have a whole team of people doing it. And it was still an uphill battle for many. So take the time, but give your team the power and the tools that they need to succeed. And then secondarily, practice. Practice, 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 practice. I know everybody's so B word busy, not my favorite word, or be productive, but you can spend 15 minutes of your team meeting looking at a coverage, and now you have the tools to do it for all in our agency school. So check it out. Check out our blog on insurance scripts and how to explain coverage. We go through all this if you want to read more or share it with your team. And at the end of the day, say hi, like our podcast, like it on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, find us on social media. This is all we do. In fact, somebody said to me recently, Kelly, you give away so much. What do you actually sell? And I said, well, give away a lot because I know how hard it is to implement it. And if you need us to come in and be the cool kids to help your team, we're happy to do that too. So with that being said, go about your day. Go check out this course, check out the podcast, check out the blog, do all the things. But no matter what, make sure your team is always getting educated on coverage.